Hey everyone, welcome to the Growth Mind podcast. Today, I'm super excited to be starting a new series where I interview professionals across various industries to better understand their experience and their career journeys. In this first episode, I'm fortunate enough to be having a conversation with Micah Knight, the founder and principal of Element Consultants, LLC. Micah has over 14 years of experience as an environmental engineer and consultant, has served this country in the Coast Guard and the Marines, contributing towards the environmental sector. And for the past 3 years, he's been growing and scaling his own consultancy firm. And if all of that's not impressive enough, he's also working towards his MBA at the University of Michigan. So without further ado, here's our conversation.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Matt. Yeah, a little bit about me. I'm a veteran. I'll start off with where I went to college. I went to the Coast Guard Academy in New London, Connecticut. Um, I always had a desire to serve my country, and this is at a time where, our economy was changing, and I know that uh, the job market was going to be pretty challenging, but also I wanted to, have a be able to serve my country in some sort of capacity. So I went into the Coast Guard Academy. I graduated with a degree in civil engineering, with a focus in structural engineering, which is a bit different than what my specialty is in now. But once I commissioned into the Coast Guard, I spent about 5 years active duty, doing various engineering roles. But I found like a really like a niche, and I did really well. And that was the really environmental engineering and being an environmental coordinator for multiple units. So did a lot of training, did a lot of internal audits. Was had a pretty great time on that. I felt pretty happy that my command and my leaders gave me like a lot of leeway to be able to take on the projects that I wanted to. So that was a really great experience. After that, my contract with the Coast Guard ended, and to be honest, I wanted more of like a more active role in the military, in military events, so to speak. And this is around the time that ISIS was still, the war on terror wasn't changing at all. I saw these videos about ISIS on TV, and I wanted a more active role. So I did something very different, and I joined the Marine Corps, and I did that for about 4 years. I did still kind of have like a program manager role in the Marine Corps. And I was able to manage a few safety and development programs, a lot of training programs there. But I love my time in the Marine Corps. Wouldn't change it for anything. Once I got out of that, I still had a very entrepreneurial spirit of what I wanted to do, and I started my own baby steps of a consulting company where I was back into an environmental coordinator and management of certain kinds of programs. Spent time in the private sector at first until I realized that perhaps it'd be a good idea to use my veteran status and pivot into government contracting. So that's really what I've been focused in right now, or in the last year or so. And things are great so far. Learned a lot. It's a great feeling being your own boss. You learn a lot. You have a lot of triumphs and setbacks daily, but I'm sure we'll talk more about that pretty soon. But yeah, that's my brief version of my story so far.
Oh, yeah, no, that's awesome. And thank you for sharing. Yeah, one thing I guess I was curious on about too is when it comes to your consultancy experience, was that something that you kind of started playing with independently, or I guess did you have a bit of background from different roles that had led you to the work of being a consultant?
Yeah, it was mostly a lot of the roles that I've held in the past. Um, as I said before, in the military, they do a great job of giving you a a project, letting you figure things out from there. They give you some leaders, they give you kind of a confines of what you can and can't do. But from there, you really have to like start learning things on your own. And you have some mentors, you have some other representatives that you can like kind of subject matter experts that you can lean on. But yeah, it gave me like a lot of good hands-on experience of leading other engineers and accomplishing projects as a group. And so I used that. I had a lot of fun, a lot of really good experiences doing that. And really, that's what led me to want to do my own consultancy, because I knew that that's where my expertise was at. And I really wanted to kind of compound on that. And especially in the fact that, in sustainability, I feel like there's not a lot that's really changed in sustainability. We had these these benchmarks or these goals in 2035, 2045, 2055 is where we want to be as a country as far as like, reducing our, carbon emissions. But, I feel this way, and I'm sure a lot of other people feel the same. I feel like we haven't had that much progress. So it's a space that I feel like needs a lot of help, a lot of leadership, and that's the space that I want to be involved in. So I took my experiences there and started my own company, and this is where I want to stay and make a difference at. So
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And one thing too, it's like, you had a lot of like, well, one thing I thought that was really interesting hearing just even from this, from our conversation so far is that in the military that you have that you had like some freedom around the work that you were able to explore and work towards. And most of the time, at least when I think of the military, I'm thinking of like combat and war and all these different
mhm.
things. But it's really cool to kind of hear the environmental projects and more of like the compliance side of it. And I
Mhm.
could see too just how that helped you a ton, even making the transition out of the military, as well as
Yeah.
because you were already kind of like building these real world skills that you were able to contribute. So I don't know, it's very unique. I guess like is that a very, I don't know, is there a lot of opportunities like that in the military, or is that more, are these like more unique opportunities or?
Yeah, I guess I should also clarify, because when it came to environmental engineering and sustainability, perhaps I was given freedom because it was a very new program. We had newer executive orders as to introduce more carbon neutral programs, like that type of stuff. So I guess there was freedom in my ability to be able to manage and run a program because it hadn't really been done in the past before. So I think that if had it been another program, it would probably be like a lot more strict, a lot more structure and confines around it. So I'd say that to answer your question, if people are curious about the military and want to go into an industry or to a discipline where there's a little bit more freedom of thought and people being able to choose I don't know, like you use have some innovative ideas and work with other subject matter experts. I feel like environmental engineering and sustainability, environmental sciences, those are things that you'll probably find a little bit more leeway, I should say. Most other things, it's kind of hard to say. But again, I was very fortunate, especially in the Coast Guard too, because they were able to give me that type of freedom. Being like a much smaller service, I think they kind of have a little bit more implicit trust in some of their leaders to be able to do that type of stuff. But I can't speak about a lot of other services and how they might treat those programs. So that's just my
Yeah,
experience in the Coast Guard.
no, that's fair. And yeah, that totally makes sense that with it being a newer program as well, having a little bit more freedom around how, I guess, how you're navigating and what the process looks like and so forth.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess after your time as an environmental engineer, did you know that you were going to be jumping into being like a program manager? Was it kind of like leading up to that, or I don't know, was there a little bit like uncertainty after your contract with the Coast Guard?
Yeah, I think there was some uncertainty after the Coast Guard, but I knew that getting back into environmental sciences, environmental engineering was something I always wanted to do. I guess I felt like I had done really well in that profession or in that my time in those units. And there's just some things that just never really like leave your mind as far as like what you've learned and how you've progressed. So I think it made a lot of sense for me to be able to use that moving forward. And when I started my own company to be able to use that type of expertise. Um, yeah, and it's also like from a leadership aspect, I have like a lot of experience, leading teams of engineers, like about, hundreds of engineers actually, so to speak. So using that experience and moving forward to start my own consultancy and talking in engineering terms and leading projects, I think that's really helpful for me.
No, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Of with, so you're saying when you were an environmental engineer in the Coast Guard, you were already in you were working your way into leadership opportunities there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I've never been I've never really been an individual contributor for anything. That's just not how, I don't really think that's how I really function. I don't think that's really where my strengths are at. I feel like I'm much better as a team player and leader, being able to take a step back and look at the 30,000 foot view of how a project needs to happen. I think that's where my strength is at. And I enjoy that part of it.
Yeah. And I guess that makes kind of like rolling into it. I guess that makes sense why you're now like the founder of your own firm, consultancy
Mm.
firm, and kind of managing those projects that you get. So yeah, so I mean, like, so right, all these experiences, like I saw on LinkedIn, right? You went from being an environmental consult or not environmental engineer to then being a program manager in the Marine to then being an account manager, I believe, like in the healthcare space, and then
Mhm.
now you're now you're in the space of being the founder of your own consultancy firm, which is based around environmental projects. That is your market is within the government sector, right?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. So it's like I guess with with kind of like one the next question I would have is what does your work look like on a day-to-day or a week-to-week basis as an
Mhm.
environmental consultant? And I know obviously running your firm, there's going to be a lot of other
Yeah.
responsibilities outside of just being a consultant. But
Mhm.
yeah, I guess it's like maybe just giving a little bit of insight on your experience, like what your work looks like as an environmental consultant, but then also even what does it look like running your like being the founder of your own firm as well.
Yeah. So I can talk a little bit about some of the projects and contracts that I bid on. And most of what I try to bid on as far as projects are more of a program developer or overseer of how to run a project. So, for example, one of the contracts I've been bidding on is like kind of running the entire hazardous waste disposal program of a certain agency. And there's things I can't cannot say to kind of like for I won't classified information, but exactly just like being able to manage the hazardous waste disposal program, the hazmat training program of certain agencies, doing like a lot of the environmental project coordination, and also the environmental health and safety programs as well. That's typically the programs that I try to develop and manage in my contract with other agencies. But as far as like on the business owner side of things, I mean, every day is very different, but I'll say that it will typically start off with me trying to look for solicitations for future projects. There's a bunch of different websites and marketplaces where they will post solicitations. Maybe it's a request for a proposal. Maybe it's just a request for information or trying to figure out, hey, who can do this project? And I'll respond. I'll try to start that relationship, and from there, like once I understand the scope of work, the performance of work, I'll go from there. So I'll start trying to develop a proposal if it's something that I want to do myself, or if it might be outside of my scope of work. I also have a network of other contractors, whether they're prime contractors or subcontractors, partners, even people that have a similar scope of work as me, but might have different sub-disciplines, and being able to partner with them on certain projects. So, I'll usually try to set up a meeting with them, say, hey, I have this solicitation I'm looking at. I think I can do X, Y, Z on here. Can you do ABC? Could be yes, could be no. But then we'll typically move forward from there. They'll have their guys and myself. We'll go ahead and start working on a proposal together, working on pricing. And once that's done, we'll submit that in and hopefully hope for the best. Um, the One of the helpful things for me is being able to classify my business as a service disabled veteran owned small business. Because when it comes to federal contracting, they typically will, I don't want to say have like preferential treatment, but they do set aside a certain amount of funds to go towards those small businesses. So being able to have a network of other small businesses that have that same classification, it really allows you, especially as a small, like a newer business, having that kind of connection really helps you out, get started in the right direction. So you guys start partnering on smaller projects and kind of develop your performance, your past performances from there. And that's really what this whole thing is about, is having a portfolio of projects that you've done successfully and kind of stacking on from there, building on from there. And that's how you can be these 10, $100 million valuation companies in the future. So that's my goal. That's a very, very base level of what I do on a daily basis. I'm sure at some point we can go really into the weeds if we really wanted to. But the wave top version of
Yeah,
my
yeah.
daily activities.
No, yeah, and I think at least for starts too, like having that surface level understanding of what does the scope of work look like is great. I was gonna say too, when it comes to projects, so as a consultant, right? Like, I mean, I guess, well, one quick question is like, do you enjoy the like being able to shift to different projects within the year? And kind of like rolling into the other question that I had was like, how many projects would you normally have? So it's like, do you like the dynamic of different projects? And then like, how many projects do you normally see within a year, you would say?
Yeah, it can really change, and it really depends if I'm going to be how involved I'm going to be in it. If I'm going to have a team of subcontractors kind of doing things for me, do I have to be remote? Do I have to be on site? That really changes things,
Yeah.
and what I'm able to really do. So I would say that ideally, if we're talking about a year-long contract, um, ideally I'd be able to kind of hold down myself about three contracts at one time. That's can be challenging.
Okay.
But if it
So
fits
three
my
different,
workload and fits, what's that?
so three different projects at once.
Yeah, yeah. If it fits my workload and fits my if I'm able to be like kind of remote and travel, as part of that contract, then three would be ideal. Um, I'd say over the next 2 to 3 years, again, I want to be able to partner with other contractors and other business owners and, you know, be able to utilize them and lean on them to be able to help manage projects as well. So hopefully that can move that up to 6, 8 in the future. As of right now, from my company, it's really just me being the sole business owner, being like the principal, just consultant, kind of doing all these things on my own. And so obviously it's like kind of hard on me. Um, but yeah, being able to build my business out to where I can hire on more team members and partner with other contractors, that would be being able to do that will let me do, I would say, 8 contracts a year, and that's my goal to be able to accomplish that in the next 2 to 3 years.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, like you said, it's taking time. It takes time to kind of build that up and to create the foundation and
Mm.
and kind of grow from there. But I mean it's awesome that you already have a network of people that you can communicate like that you can work alongside of. And I'm guessing it's taken some time to even find that network and find the people that you work
Yeah.
well with. But it also that you can, it's like when you need help or if you need, a different perspective or some assistance that you have it. So that's
Yeah.
really cool. I was gonna say too with before we go to like the I guess like the next main question, when it comes to environmental based projects, which I guess like which types of projects are your favorite or which ones have you enjoyed the most?
Yeah. I think the ones that I enjoy the most are, um, that's a good question. I think the ones that I enjoy the most are the ones where I can take an existing program or project and kind of do like an internal audit and change things how they might be, how they might need to be. So typically that means you're not rebuilding the wheel. You know what I mean? So I acknowledge fully that, some people, when they've, gone in, they develop programs and projects, sometimes they may not have had the actual expertise to be able to build it up the right way, but at least there's a right intent going into it. So I think the best projects and the ideal ones are what I can go into, very capable individuals and teams who know how to run things. They just need that help on getting, like, making sure they're in compliance with certain things. I really enjoy working with engineers because they have a very technical mind, and I have a very technical mind too. That's my background. So
Mhm.
being able to kind of speak the same lingo and talk to them the right way, I feel like we always tend to get along that way. Um, so yeah, I do enjoy those types of projects where you have guys that are interested and they want to be able to do the right thing. They want to be in compliance. They just don't know how to be all the right pieces to the puzzle. My job is to be able to be that pieces
Yeah.
to the puzzle, the missing piece of the puzzle. So, and I think from there you also start the best relationships too. And I think also if you're starting out, as a business owner, I think that's probably the best way to start out too, because you're working with guys that, you don't have to start from scratch, because there's a lot of things that can go wrong when you are starting from scratch. There's time, there's money, there's, maybe not enough information. But when you're in there with the right people, and with the right experiences, sometimes it just takes a little bit of change, just a few changes to the pieces to make sure things start running a lot more efficiently.
Yeah, no, yeah, I can definitely tell just the way that you're talking about it. You're a problem solver. You love like going in, seeing where you can make things more efficient or help things run better. And yeah, kind of reminds me a little bit of like maybe it's different, but like kind of like quality assurance in a way of
Mhm.
like going in and trying to find like bugs or like like certain problems within the system and pointing those out and then seeing, hey, how can we adjust this so that it's running more smoothly or running the way that we want it to run. um
Yeah.
so yeah, that's awesome. All right, so I'm
Mm.
gonna run to the next question. So with the next question, I guess what were like the key experiences in your life? So I mean, even if we were to go before college, like was there things in your childhood or growing up that you think drove you to this environmental space? Or was it more of college experiences or just, entering the Coast Guard and then like kind of like finding this area of opportunity that just fits your interests and your abilities and so forth? Like what, I guess, like what led you to like wanting to pursue the environmental industry?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say there's anything before the military that let me want to get into the environmental industry. I will say though that before the military, I know that I've always just had a self-starter attitude. I don't always like to just follow the group and see what everyone else is doing. If I see something wrong, I want to change it. And that's how I've always been. So I will say that that has always affected my entrepreneurial spirit. And seeing a problem, seeing a way for me to improve a process, and then me just bringing in the solution, working with the right people, having the right minds, and building a solution from there, making something happen. I think that's part of my entrepreneurial spirit that's always been with me since I was a kid. I will say though that in my time in the Coast Guard, I really didn't know enough about the environment at all. However, when I got to my next unit, which was in Oregon, there was Oregon's a beautiful place. I think we actually kind of talked about this too. But seeing how people really treat the environment in Oregon, how there's certain there's a lot more rigorous procedures and processes in place as to how people dispose of waste in Oregon, how people recycle, that really open up my eyes to what the rest of the country is missing. Oregon's not a perfect place, but it made me see, if we do it the right way, this is what things can look like. And so taking that, I was like, okay, yeah, this is a problem that the rest of the country isn't paying attention to. And I need to be able to take my experience or take my expertise and bring people's awareness to it. And so I'm thankful for my time at Oregon because it really got me started off on the right foot when it came to environmental engineering.
Cool. Yeah, no, I don't know, I always kind of find that interesting. It's like, what experiences in life create that spark for you to be like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this is something that I can use my abilities and create a positive impact in this area. um and
Yeah.
yeah, it's like starting off, so like sounds like starting off like it was definitely more of like the engineering mind and like wanting to kind of work in that space. But then you get, was it then deployed to Oregon? It is it kind of, would that be the right term in the?
So yes, or it was they call it PCS, so permanent change of station. So I started off on a ship in Florida, and I was an engineer there. But there's kind of a separate hazard or environmental programs that were there that I had some experience in, but that wasn't my full total discipline there. So I knew of the program. I knew that it was important to understand how to dispose of certain hazardous waste. Um, especially when you're offshore and when you're overseas, there's very certain protocols that you have to follow. But then really taking that experience and going to Oregon really opened up my eyes as to how robust, how big this space is, and how people just kind of aren't really educated in this space. And then also, this is around 2012. Things have changed a lot since then, but not that much, unfortunately. Still feel like there's a lot more education that needs to happen in terms of how to take care of our planet, how to take care of our communities. how to recycle, like the basic things, what classifies as certain types of wastes, batteries, for example, computer batteries, laptop batteries. Well, there's no really laptop batteries anymore, but just batteries, electronic batteries, that type of stuff. People just don't always know how to dispose of it. They just put it in the trash and think that it's okay. So educating people on that and opening people's eyes to how we can take care of our planet in a much better way, much more efficient way. Um, that's something that I want to be able to change.
Yeah. No, and that's powerful. It's we need people like you in this world working towards those things because yeah, it's like I mean, I feel like in the US we, a lot of that may be kind of hidden from us in a way too. We don't see like the bad practices. But I feel like just from the internet and just seeing videos, like you can see how that affects other countries, um,
Mhm.
and how impactful that can be. But yeah, that's awesome.
Uh,
All right. So yeah, so then the next question was uh when it comes to uh I guess like so say someone, right, like say that you go back in time, you're in college or kind of working towards your career, what would be like I guess like do you have any advice or insight for someone that's wanting to pursue the environmental space, and are there maybe better ways to navigate it now versus when you were kind of navigating that space back in your career?
yeah, I do think that if someone's trying to get into the environmental space now, like let's just say high school or maybe going into college, maybe looking into a major, I definitely think that engineering is a solid major to be in, particularly like civil engineering. Environmental engineering is kind of a subset of civil engineering as a major. There might be some schools that offer environmental engineering as their own separate major, but I'm not totally sure about that. Um, and there's also some that'll have probably a really a discipline in sustainability in construction management, in uh, in energy utilization or renewable energy. There might be some that have like a discipline or maybe even electives like that. So I think the programs, the knowledge is definitely out there now. I think you just have to ask for it and maybe go to the right schools that offer those kinds of programs. I do think that people get intimidated when it comes to engineering. There's a lot of core classes that really go into it that may not be that fun and can be kind of challenging, but you really do learn a lot when it comes to being in engineering because you do take a lot of trips to the field. I think one of the trips I remember going to in college was to a waste treatment facility. And doesn't sound that great. It's you're treating waste, but you really do start to understand it on a macro level as to how these types of things affect our whole communities. So that does play a pretty big impact. Um, I'd also say that if you are graduating, maybe let's say you have that expertise, maybe you have an engineering degree, you're graduating, my advice would be to start joining some engineering societies. If you're a military engineer, there's something called the SAME, Society of American Military Engineers, and I'm a member of that. There's also the American Society of Civil Engineers, ASCE. These are both really great programs where you can be around like-minded professionals and you can really start to learn a lot from other folks. Maybe you're looking for employment and it is a very difficult job market right now. Having that right connection of other professionals can help you get your foot in the door if you want to. Or maybe if you're a contractor, maybe if you want to be an independent contractor, subject matter expert. Again, some of these people are business owners, and they can also, bring you on as a mentor-mentee relationship and see the projects that they're working on. So there's a lot of things that are out there. You just have to ask for it and pay attention to it. But that would be my advice: is to, get in the right major, and to join the right societies. I feel like a lot of people don't want to go to college anymore, and I kind of get it. When it comes to these types of disciplines, it's hard to really replace college completely. There's a lot of valuable information that you really do learn that can really help accelerate your career to the next level. Because to get certain projects and to be paid a certain way, you really do need that bachelor of science, that master's in engineering, that type of stuff. Um, that's just kind of the way that it is, unfortunately. When it changes, we'll see.
Yeah, so do you know anybody that's navigated the environmental space pretty well, but doesn't have an engineer degree or like is
Yeah, there are some environmental sciences out there, not necessarily engineering, but for example, I think marine environmental sciences is a really powerful one too. Maybe you're paying more attention to the marine space, fishery and wildlife space, how our actions as a society can affect the ecosystems that are around us. It's a little bit different, but you are still on the conservation track of trying to take care of our earth, our environments, our communities. So I don't know a lot of people in that space, but I know they can still be a pretty good space to be in. But again, I think you're still going to need have a college background when it comes to that type of stuff. I hope that answers your question.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
again,
yeah.
it's hard to say that you don't need college anymore. It's I don't know if we're going to get to that spot.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I was just thinking, if someone say that someone was like pursuing engineering, but realized like that might not be like the best fit for their skills, but they still
Hmm.
wanted to pursue the environmental space and maybe get like an environmental science degree. Like
Hmm.
it sounds like obviously having, like working towards being like a scientist in that space or being an engineer in
Yeah.
this space is going to create the most opportunity and where you'd be hands-on.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, I guess I was still kind of curious if like if you didn't get if you weren't working towards being like the scientist, like I don't know, it's like if you were to, like for you even like I don't know if you were to be like a program manager within an environmental science, like within an environmental like organization, do you think you would need the technical background still, or do you think there could still be great program managers that don't have that technical background?
I do think you still had to have some sort of a technical background because it can get to be it's a technical space. You have to at least know what you're talking about and also know what other the roadblocks are that some of your technicians are going to be facing. So it's one of those things where you had to have a little bit of that technical background. You can't just go into that space and not know anything
Yeah,
about environmental engineering or environmental sciences. You may not have to be the expert at that anymore, but you have to understand what your teams are going through, what their struggles and their obstacles are going to be able to mitigate that and work around that.
no,
Um,
yeah, that's
yeah.
fair. I mean, I definitely think that's probably what made you a great program manager and like, even just with other responsibilities leading up to your like being the founder of your own firm. I could
Mhm.
imagine just having the technical chops of in the background is just like kind of
Mhm.
helping you apply yourself to better understand like what are all these people on the ground doing.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. Next question. All right. So, uh, for your job, and we might have touched on this a little bit, but what are your favorite parts and like the most challenging parts of your job?
Yeah, my favorite part is I do love the autonomy of being my own boss, and being able to answer to um, myself and to also be a part of something that I find really important in being able to make a change in that space. I do enjoy that part. I enjoy working with engineers, with other teams. Again, it all depends on passion. If people are there because they feel like they're passionate about a project, they want to make a change and want to take a step in the right direction, I love that. Because it's like you're in the right spot, you're working with the right people, all working towards the same objectives. And that's a pretty powerful thing. I do think that the challenging part of this job, and it's just what comes with being an entrepreneur, being your own business owner, is the ebbs and flows of it. There are some times where I may not, I might put in a lot of work hours to bid on a contract, and I just may not get it because of X, Y, Z, whatever reason it might be. Who knows?
Yeah.
There's probably a million different reasons to why some person will get a contract versus another that might have nothing to do with their experiences. It could just be because of a previous existing relationship that I didn't know anything about. Uh, the the I won't say it can be seasonal, especially when you're around the ending and the beginning of a fiscal year. Things really ramp up and things can get really ultra competitive, especially when you're starting out. You'll hear like a lot of no's and rejections, but again, that's just part of what's being an entrepreneur. But I know what I signed up for. I can take it. I can handle it. But that is some of the downsides of being your own boss. But the positives greatly outweigh the negatives for sure. And I have no regrets as to with the space that I'm in right now.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And with like I guess rejection as well, like did that take you a little bit of time to, I don't know, just start getting comfortable and used to that, like, hey, this is part of the process? Or like what are some things that you feel like helped you with like the reject, like when you were rejected from a project that you cared about? I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
right, like you mentioned, there's like sometimes there's just no control, like you don't have control of the situation.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. It's taken as a lesson learned, and not taking it personal. It's it's business.
yeah,
Not every business owner wins every single day, and most people just they only post their wins. They post their victories. They don't talk about their losses. And losses are just things that happen all the time, every day. That's just something that we all have to get used to. But taking those losses as a lesson to be learned, I think, is the important thing. Um, and so doing that, I'll realize, okay, sometimes you can also kind of reach out to some of um, the folks, the points of contact, and ask them, hey, what was different or what was wrong? Different from an interview, I don't think you can always ask an interviewer what went wrong with your interview, but for these things, for these reasons, or at least in the government contracting space, you can oftentimes ask, what was wrong with this proposal? Maybe your bid price was too expensive. Maybe you didn't have enough experience. Maybe you didn't have the right people that are going to be involved in the project. It can be a lot of different things. So you can usually ask for some clarity in that. And and a lot of times too, from what I found, I think sometimes I just need to be able to work with other subject matter experts. Being the primary sole consultant of my own company, I'm going to have uh, things that I can do really, really well. But when it comes to a bigger project, there's sometimes I need to partner with other folks. So being able to be humble and say, okay, these are skills that I have, but these are skills that other people have too. So why don't we combine our efforts together and work on this project and put a proposal forward? That's one of the things I had to learn, and just being able to reach out and ask for help. That's what's helped me build out my network of other professionals. So yeah, that's something I had to learn. Can't do all this on my own for sure.
yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, I can't tell you how many clients that I work with just in the coaching world that, you know, just I don't know, the fact that either like that same message is like this, the kind of the message that I also share with a lot of people that I work with. Um and yeah, I don't know, I appreciate you like reinforcing that because yeah, it's needed. So yeah, so just I guess to wrap things up, is there, if I don't know, if people wanted to reach out to you or get in contact, or I don't know, like if there was like, yeah, anything that you'd want to plug, or like, website or
Yeah.
communication, or yeah, any just, yeah, I just kind of leave you.
Yeah, no, I mean, my website is element-consultants.com, ELEMENT-consultants. And you can reach that's my email as well, just Micah, Micah, at element-consultants. That's where you can find me at. Um, I guess another thing that I'll probably say, just to plug it, is to when we were talking about education, college, some majors, um, try not to be afraid of the engineering track and the science track. It can be daunting. It can definitely be challenging, but there's a lot of really, really valuable information that goes into that. So try not to knock going to college or getting an education. I understand it's expensive. Student loans are expensive. But if you can just, deal with that, um, try to get that base knowledge, that base technical knowledge, man, it's going to pay dividends in the long run. I think if you prefer engineering as a skill set, it can be very, very There's some classes that are going to be challenging: thermodynamics, fluid dynamics, um, a lot of classes that can get very technical, but try not to be overwhelmed by that. It's hard for everybody. But if you want to go a science route, like environmental sciences, you're probably gonna have to take something like organic chemistry. I think that's one of them. It's a pretty hard one people talk about. So get a tutor. Don't be afraid of it. You know, it's not easy for anybody, but it is a when you can accomplish that, you can say that you've accomplished that, it's going to open up a lot of or doors for you. So yeah, don't be afraid of it. Just if this is what you want, go for it and use your resources around you. People can reach out to me. People can reach out to other professionals in this space. It's a lot of really good professionals in here, so we're all here to help.
Yeah, no, this is incredible. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate just the authenticity of this conversation. And just also I was going to note with when I post this on YouTube, I'll make sure that I attach your website. Maybe we could even
Yeah,
find some other resources that we can attach below that may help students or people that are trying to enter the space.
sure.
But yeah, yeah, I already know some people that I could send this video to. Um, I don't know. It's very valuable, and again, I appreciate you taking the
Yeah.
time to just provide some insight and to present your experience. So
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you reaching out and what you're doing. You're being able to help other folks that are interested, not just in this space, but in other spaces, other professional spaces. I know that people need help. So what you're doing is some great stuff too. So I'm always happy to help you and anyone else that's going to come in your path. So, but yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Nat. I appreciate it.
awesome. But yeah, I hope anybody watching enjoys, and make sure you follow for more.